Hi everybody, Matt here, Simply Strength. I hope you're all having a great Easter and not indulging yourself too much in chocolate. My topic for today is to talk about high school and why it sucks for the most part. It's currently at this time, all of the kids are off school, and it just piqued my interest to reflect back on my own experiences when I was at high school and why my memories of it aren't too great. Further, I won't talk about primary school in this video, but that's equally as my experience of that is equally as bad. But I'd like to start by sort of reflecting on the fact that my experiences at high school were punctuated by a sense of bewilderment for the most part. When I first got there in year 7, which is the first year, I don't know off the top of my head what the counterpart is in America and Canada and elsewhere. But I just felt like, for the most part, I was on a production line, very much like the Pink Floyd Another Brick in the Wall video. And there was a strong sense of just feeling like a number being put through a machine. In the first 2 years, I did apply myself quite a lot and did very well in my grades, got A's for every subject. But I just started to feel more and more disillusioned, and I wasn't very popular at the time, as if that's important, but I realise that now. But as I moved through the years, I seemed to be more aware of the fact that everyone else around me was, aside from a few friends, most people, about 98% of people were losers. They had no real aspirations to do anything, and I always felt that I wanted to be able to achieve something, and I still think like that. So there was always, I could never relate to the hierarchy that was present, especially my year group and those around it, where there was this obsession with whoever the hardest person was in the school, and just playground crap like that never really seemed to achieve anything. And I just never understood why these automatons, these peons would think like that. But I guess it was just the area where a lot of them came from. There was a lot of deprived areas around the school. It was actually a public school, not an independent school, a fee-paying school, but it was a state school. It was actually it was a Catholic school, and it was referred to as a sports college, but the sports facilities weren't actually that great. So I don't know how they got the status as a sports college. Anyhow, as I moved through, I started to become more popular around about the 3rd or 4th year, as I started to choose my GCSE subjects. However, by this time, my thoughts on school had changed, and I was more interested in my own reading, my own research, and my own pursuits. So I'd already took up the music at that time and was putting more hours per day into learning the instrument, the guitar, as opposed to my schoolwork. And it did suffer, and that's, it's contributed down the line, but I don't regret any of it. And I would put so many hours in. I was learning new songs, composing my own songs, and I got a lot more self-actualization, self-gratification from that than from learning the curriculum, which I think is a joke, and I'll come on to that again in a minute. I mean, the lessons I was interested in, they still relate to my interests now in a way. So I was always interested in biology and IT, and I did enjoy PE as well. I really did enjoy PE. D&T, where we do systems design and things like that. I did enjoy English as well, because I enjoyed reading, but the books we did read in the curriculum, most of them were rubbish. We did read Animal Farm, which was still one of my favourite books, and there's something to be said for that. But for the most part, the lessons I was interested in, even though I was in the top group for science, we did 3 different classes on science, the physics, biology, and chemistry. I was in the top group, but most of the lessons that I did enjoy were it was impossible to learn in them because other students would just keep talking, and nothing ever got done about that. So I kind of feel like I lost out there, but that's maybe just a fact of life. There are losers about, and you have to distance yourself from them. There are wasters, and I'll do another video on this. It's a topic I do enjoy talking about wasters, people that just don't apply themselves and for the most part don't care. Sometimes there is merit to having an attitude where you don't care, but not in this instance. I just couldn't understand why, people should, if they, that's the problem for me, is like, why, if they've got no interest and they're not applying themselves, why can't they just leave? Why do they have to be forced to stay in the class and disrupt it for everybody else? Why do they have to be at school? If you'd rather go out and learn a trade, go and learn a trade. If you'd rather be an apprentice, do that. If you don't have an interest, whereas other people do, why disrupt it for them and ruin their chances? That's what I never understand. Everyone has to go to school, but if you think that if you don't enjoy the topics or you don't see how it's relevant and you have that explained to you and you still don't think it's relevant, then I think you have the right to leave. But yeah, so those lessons were disrupted. Also at break times, as I did get older and move through until the end of school, I would play football a lot of times at breaks, but for the most part, I would usually go in the library, and there were people in the library, the so-called geeks at the time. That I wouldn't have called them close friends, but I would prefer just going in the library and going on the computer, listening to music that I was into at the time and still am. Reading up guitar parts, trying to compose some new stuff, reading books on topics that I'm interested in, or I was at the time, and we didn't do in the curriculum. And I think there's something to be said about that kind of autodidactism, where you go off and learn yourself and teach yourself. And I mean, I've done that since leaving school, and I've learned far more than I ever did at school. Even despite that, as I moved through high school, I actually gained more popularity because of my music, and my band did play at a few Battle of the Bands and things, and it was like a transformation. But the byproduct of that was my grades went down. I also competed in a couple of sports events. I wouldn't have called myself an athlete in any description. I'm not a natural athlete, but I did represent the school at one or two regional competitions, but nothing with any real success. But I did take pride in that. And what I would say is I never really learned anything worth a damn until sixth form. I mean, I am interested in science and history, especially history. I do enjoy my history. But my interest in history lay in the Cold War and, the 20th century history, not just British history, but world history, And we didn't really do that until sixth form. And by the time I did get to sixth form, just the 2 years before going to university, which I didn't do, I went into the workplace for a few years and then went back to university when I knew what I wanted to do. At sixth form, it was some of the best times I had in my life, but for other reasons than school. It was to do with my music, and we were playing a lot more shows and basically just dossing about because of knowing that eventually you'll be an adult and you'll have to be a responsible person. So, yeah, I mean, at sixth form I did do music, and my music teacher, I didn't do music at GCSE, so I was already on the back foot, but I did manage to pass it, so I'd see that as an achievement, because I had to sort of cram all of this music theory, which was difficult and a lot of work. But my music teacher at the time, and I've spoken to him one or two times since leaving school, was one of the most inspirational people I've ever met. His sheer passion for music came across to me, and it's something that I've tried to emulate in my own life, in my other areas. So I thoroughly enjoyed music and thoroughly enjoyed being taught by him, and most of the lessons that we did have, I would sort of divert the conversation into talking about people like Bach and Mozart and Beethoven, and he would just go off on these tangents and these discussions, and we just wouldn't get anything done. And I thought I learned more from that than the bloody curriculum. Going off in these fantastic discussions, and because the curriculum didn't assess that, I was still learning from him, from his knowledge, but the curriculum wasn't there to support that. So I see that as another negative, really. But another one as well, because the school was Catholic. This is when I was before sixth form. We used to have RE lessons, religious education, and I'm not religious in any way, but we did have some fantastic discussions in that. I did enjoy engaging with the rest of the group and the teacher in talking about belief and peace, war, all of that sort of stuff, and that was very good. What I would say, the main reasons that high school is garbage is basically because you don't learn anything really about real life skills. I mean, you do work experience, like you have a work placement for a week, but you don't really learn anything that you're sort of a T-boy or something. You don't really do anything worth a damn. But I don't remember ever being taught real life skills. So how to set up a business, how to file a tax return. I still couldn't tell you how to file a tax return. No idea. Because I'm only in the early stages of setting up my own enterprises. I've got no idea about how to set on employees correctly with the right legal procedures. How to trademark something. I've only just taught myself how to trademark something. There was a recent video on the Young Turks looking at financial literacy and how bad it is. People don't know what mutual funds are and stocks, shares, all these different things, derivatives, all that rubbish. And I think that it's truly important that people get taught this at the earliest possible stage, because it's real life. You absolutely know jack about loans, bank accounts. They never tell you in school how people are going to screw you over, because life is full of people who want to screw you over. And how to prepare for job interviews, how to apply for jobs. All of this stuff is crucial, and it should be taught from mid-teens onwards, and they should keep going over it, because it's what determines your success in life. And also, in my opinion, you should do philosophy and politics as early as possible. It stops you becoming a brainwashed urchin just from following in your parents' footsteps. So in this country, I'm not sure about you guys across the Atlantic, but and elsewhere, but there's people in my country who vote for the same political party as their parents without any sort of critical analysis of policies and directions. And you can make the argument that politics is a waste of time. I accept that, and that's maybe another topic for another day. But people need to think critically. Critical thinking we did at sixth form, and it was an afterthought. It was a complete afterthought. It was terrible. My work on critical thinking and how I've developed my thought processes has come from my university education and my own reading. That's the key. The key is to read your own stuff, get your own books, develop your own interests, forge your own path. And school doesn't allow you to do that. Most of the things that I've taken from school are a couple of teachers. So there were two teachers that were very inspiring to me. One being my music teacher, another being my year head. There's one or two close friends that I still have today who I've known for about 15 years, maybe more than that. And they were, two of the great things to come from school. The religion at the school was a negative aspect. I felt that it impacted on things. I think it should have been completely secular, but I had no control over that. Sixth form was good. It was very, very entertaining. Although I didn't get a lot of work done, I did pass all my grades, and maybe that did affect my prospects. When I went to university, I had to do a foundation course before I got my degree, and did well in my degree. But when the time came that I went to university, I did work hard instead of partying. So there's something to be said for that. But the fact that you don't succeed at a young age, and this is again a video for another time talking about prodigies and things like that. The fact that you don't succeed at a young age isn't a bad thing. I've been a late starter in pretty much everything in my life for a number of reasons. But since school, I've learned far more. I used to despise maths at school. Maybe because, the teacher was okay, but she did used to get on my nerves quite a lot. I was in the second set for maths, which I still don't realise how that was possible. But I took the GCSEs and got a poor grade in maths, and despite getting over half of the marks, which was I never understood the grade stratification there. You get over half the marks, surely that would be a C and not a D. But nevertheless, since finishing school, I've learned far more about maths and statistics from my own reading. I've read it all myself, and it just tells you the power of autodidactism and self-teaching. When there's a passion for the area, it truly empowers you to succeed. Whereas if you just, a guy at work, my very first job, told me a powerful lesson. He said that there's no one as deaf as he who doesn't want to hear. And I think there's something to be said for that. I can certainly relate to that. So those are my thoughts on the high school experience, and I'm sure a lot of you can relate to that. The real power is in having passion for what you're doing, and if the passion isn't there, move on to something else within reason. And keep forging ahead. I'd love to hear your own comments about your experiences down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you'd like to help this channel and help me improve the quality of the videos, do check out my Patreon page, and I'll see you again soon. Thanks for listening.